The year was 1935. The Indianapolis 500, a crucible of automotive innovation, was on the cusp of a seismic shift. The prevailing wisdom dictated that only meticulously crafted, bespoke engines could conquer the brickyard. Factory-backed teams with their mass-produced power plants were struggling to keep pace with the hand-built behemoths dominating the track. This reality prompted Eddie Rickenbacker, owner of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, to implement a controversial new rule set designed to level the playing field. The so-called junk formula, limiting engine displacement and mandating a minimum weight, was met with derision by the established teams. Overdates, but they saw it as a death knell for the sophisticated engineering that had defined the race for years. Ironically, the Great Depression, which hit just months later, would prove Rickenbacker prescient. The junk formula inadvertently democratized the race, opening the door for smaller, more resourceful teams to compete. Enter Preston Tucker, a man whose reputation oscillated wildly between visionary and con artist. Tucker possessed a scheme as audacious as it was ambitious. To partner with the legendary Harry Miller, a mechanical genius whose engines were synonymous with Indy success, to build a fleet of cars powered by Ford's ubiquitous flathead V8. The goal? To dominate the 1935 Indy 500, elevating Ford's racing prestige while simultaneously proving the surprising capabilities of their seemingly mundane engine. Against all odds, Tucker managed to convince Henry and Edsel Ford to sign on to this wildly improbable plan. The agreement finalized only in January 1935, a mere 5 months before the race set the stage for what would become one of the most spectacular failures in motorsport history. The Ford fiasco, as it would later be known, began with a seemingly impossible challenge: building 10 entirely new race cars for a paltry $25,000. The pressure was immense, the timeline impossibly tight, and the budget woefully insufficient. Within Miller's workshop, a frantic atmosphere reigned. Designers and engineers toiled day and night, the air thick with the clang of tools and the rustle of blueprints. While the cars that emerged from this pressure cooker possessed an undeniable elegance, boasting innovative front-wheel drive, a rarity at the time, custom transaxles, and patented suspension systems, they were fundamentally flawed. The design was over-engineered, rushed, and ultimately untested. However, the fatal flaw wasn't just in the overall design, but in a critical component provided by Ford themselves, the epicyclic steering box. Designed for compactness, it was positioned perilously close to the exhaust system. On race day, the intense heat baked the grease within the steering box, causing catastrophic failures. Steering wheels locked up mid-race, rendering the cars uncontrollable. Veteran drivers, sensing the inherent danger, wisely refused to participate. Their places were filled by a mix of rookies and desperate racers willing to take the enormous risk. Of the 10 cars constructed, only 5 even made it to the starting grid. None finished the race. Each succumbed to a cascade of mechanical failures and design oversights that couldn't be rectified in the frantic final months of preparation. The public failure was complete, the embarrassment profound. For Henry Ford, it was unforgivable. Enraged and humiliated, he ordered the cars locked away, hidden from public view, swearing never to speak of the project again. The dream, once hailed as a revolutionary leap forward in racing, had imploded in a spectacular blaze of ambition, arrogance, and a catastrophic lack of time. Yet even in this debacle, a glimmer of opportunity emerged. Louis Welch, a Detroit industrialist with 16 patents to his name and an insatiable passion for the Indy 500, saw not failure, but potential. A former Ford insider and owner of the Novi Equipment Company, Welch recognized the value in the discarded Ford Mittler cars, despite Ford's vehement desire to erase them from existence. In 1937, he took the audacious step of purchasing 2 of these seemingly worthless machines. Gone were the problematic flathead Veets. Welch replaced them with Offenhauser engines, the gold standard of Indy power plants. The result? A surprising third-place finish in the 1939 Indy 500. This was not merely a victory, it was a declaration of intent. Welch wasn't interested in merely competing, he craved domination. And with the 1938 rule changes allowing supercharged 3-liter engines, he saw his chance. He assembled a dream team of racing royalty, including the legendary Louis Mayer, Leo Goussain, the genius behind many Miller and Offenhauser designs, Bud Winfield, a carburetor expert, and Fred Offenhauser himself. Together, they set about creating a machine that would redefine Indy racing forever. This machine would become known as the Novi. The Novi's genesis wasn't a singular moment of inspiration, but rather a confluence of ambition, engineering brilliance, and the lingering ghost of Ford's 1935 Indy 500 debacle. Louis Welch, a Detroit industrialist with a keen eye for untapped potential and 16 patents to his name, recognized the inherent value in the wreckage of Ford's ambitious, yet ultimately disastrous, foray into the world of Indianapolis racing. He purchased 2 of the shelved Miller Ford cars, recognizing the potential within their flawed design. Gone were the problematic flathead Vates. Welch replaced them with Offenhauser engines, the then reigning champions of Indy Power, achieving a respectable third-place finish in 1939. This was just a warm-up, a prelude to the true storm he was about to unleash. Welch's vision transcended mere competition. He craved domination. By 1938, new regulations opened the door for supercharged 3-liter engines. Most teams were hesitant, wary of the inherent complexities and potential risks, but Welch saw an opportunity, a blank canvas upon which to paint his masterpiece. He assembled a team of legendary figures: Louis Mayer, a 3-time Indy 500 winner; Leo Goussain, the engineering genius behind Miller and Offenhauser's most successful designs; Bud Winfield, a carburetor expert with a racer's heart; and even Fred Offenhauser himself. This was a dream team, a collective of unparalleled talent and experience united by a shared ambition. Their creation, the Novi V8, was nothing short of revolutionary. Designed by the incomparable Leo Goussain and bankrolled by Welch's deep pockets, the engine was a testament to American ingenuity. But it was Bud Winfield who truly pushed the boundaries of engineering. His centrifugal supercharger, a marvel of mechanical precision, was designed to spin at an almost unbelievable 55,000 RPM, a staggering Mach 1.67. The result? An earth-shattering 450 horsepower, a figure that dwarfed the output of its contemporaries by a significant margin. Some 150 horsepower more than the best Offenhauser engines of the era. It wasn't just the sheer power that set the Novi apart, it was the sheer audacity of its design, a testament to the belief that more power was always better. The Novi's raw power was exhilarating, terrifying, and utterly intoxicating. The 10-inch centrifugal supercharger didn't merely scream. It howled, a high-pitched wail that echoed through the speedway, a sonic signature unlike anything ever heard before. The sound alone was enough to inspire awe, fear, and a touch of healthy respect, even in the most seasoned of veterans. But this untamed beast was housed within a decidedly less than ideal chassis, a repurposed front-wheel drive Miller Ford chassis, a leftover from Ford's 1935 Fiasco. This was a crucial design flaw from the start, a mismatch of engineering philosophies. The chassis, never designed to handle such raw power, proved woefully inadequate. It was like strapping a rocket to a wheelbarrow, spectacularly fast in a straight line, but utterly uncontrollable in the corners. The Novi's debut in 1941 was a chaotic masterpiece. Tires shredded, axles snapped, and yet, despite the mechanical turmoil, the car finished. Ralph Hepburn, the brave driver chosen to tame the untamable, displayed remarkable skill and ingenuity, even resorting to jamming a block of wood under the throttle pedal to prevent the transmission from tearing itself apart. Hepburn's fourth-place finish was a testament to his skill, but it also highlighted the fundamental limitations of the car's design. The Novi was a flawed masterpiece, uncontrollable, unpredictable, and breathtakingly fast. It was a glimpse into a future where sheer power reigned supreme, but it also hinted at the immense challenges that lay ahead. The raw, untamed power of the Novi V8 had arrived on the scene, ready to rewrite the rules of Indy racing, one spectacular and often disastrous run at a time. It was a promise of greatness, cloaked in a whirlwind of chaos and mechanical unpredictability. The legend of the Novi had begun. The post-war world, eager to shed the shadows of conflict, embraced a renewed fervor for speed. The Indianapolis 500, silent for the duration of the war, roared back to life in 1946, and with it returned Louis Welch in his monstrous Novi V8. The intervening years hadn't dulled the engine's ferocity. If anything, it had only intensified. Welch, however, remained stubbornly committed to the front-wheel drive configuration, a decision that would haunt the Novi's legacy. Leo Gusan, the design genius behind the chassis, believed that superior control could somehow tame the untamable power. He was tragically wrong. The 1946 Indy 500 saw the Novi shatter the qualifying record, clocking an astonishing 134.49 mph. This breathtaking speed, however, masked a fundamental flaw. The tires, simply not designed to withstand the Novi's brutal torque, were routinely shredded. The locked front axle, intended to enhance control, transformed the car into a barely manageable projectile in corners. The raw power, a gift and a curse, overwhelmed the chassis' ability to handle it. The car wasn't just fast. It was dangerously unpredictable, a wild beast barely contained within its metallic cage. This inherent instability wasn't merely a performance limitation, it was a life-threatening danger. In 1948, tragedy struck. Ralph Hepburn, the veteran driver who had piloted the Novi to a respectable fourth-place finish in its debut, was killed during practice. The crash, a horrific testament to the car's untamed power, cast a long shadow over the Novi's future. The following year, Duke Nellon, after leading the race from the pole position, suffered a terrifying fiery crash, narrowly escaping with his life. The whispers began. Was the Novi cursed? The legend of the Novi's curse grew with each passing year. The car became an object of both fascination and fear. Its high-pitched scream, the signature sound of its ferocious supercharger, became synonymous with both incredible speed and imminent danger. Fans adored its untamed power, but drivers approached it with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The roar of the engine drowned out the other cars on the track, but it could never quite drown out the grim reality of its inherent instability. In 1951, another tragedy struck when Chad Miller, a seasoned Indy veteran, lost his life in a practice crash. The Novi, once hailed as a marvel of engineering, was now inextricably linked to death and destruction. The curse had firmly taken hold in the collective consciousness of the racing world. Welch, despite the heartbreak and mounting pressure, refused to give up. He understood the Novi's potential, the sheer untamed power that lay beneath its temperamental exterior. Finally, in 1956, he acknowledged the limitations of the front-wheel drive design. A new rear-wheel drive chassis, crafted by Frank Curtis, offered a glimmer of hope. Paul Russo, piloting the redesigned Novi, qualified 8th and even led the race briefly before a tire failure ended his run. The following year, Russo set a new pole record, reaching an astounding 144.817 mph. The Novi, it seemed, was back in the game. But even with the new chassis, the problems persisted. In a race at Monza, Italy, the novice achieved an incredible world record speed of 177.46 mph, only to suffer mechanical failures before the finish. The pattern repeated itself. Incredible speed, tantalizing glimpses of victory, and then, inevitably, failure. By 1960, despite years of relentless pursuit and substantial investment, the Novi had still not won a single race. The once unwavering Louis Welch, exhausted and heartbroken, finally conceded defeat. The Novi's legend, built on breathtaking speed and tragic accidents, remained a potent and enduring enigma. The question lingered: was it simply an untamable beast, or was there a deeper, more sinister reason for its repeated failure? The answer, it turned out, was far more complex than a simple curse. Andy Granatelli, the flamboyant oil additive magnate and STP king, entered the Novi saga with a characteristic blend of showmanship and ambition. He acquired the entire program for a mere $10,000, a sum that paled in comparison to the Novi's legendary status and the engineering marvel it represented. Granatelli saw not a curse, but a challenge, a chance to conquer the Speedway's most notorious beast and etch his name into racing history. His approach was as unconventional as the car itself. He began by aggressively reducing the Novi's weight to a featherlight 510 pounds, a drastic measure aimed at improving handling and compensating for the engine's immense power. Simultaneously, he pushed the horsepower envelope, driving the output to a mind-boggling 754. This wasn't just an incremental improvement, it was a quantum leap, further solidifying the Novi's reputation as an untamed force. Granatelli commissioned an entirely new chassis, a critical decision that recognized the fundamental flaw in the Novi's previous iterations: the inability of the chassis to manage the sheer power of the engine. The early Novi designs, repurposed from the ill-fated Ford Miller cars of 1935, were structurally inadequate for the task. While ingenious for their time, they were simply not designed to handle the brutal torque of a highly supercharged V8 capable of ripping the asphalt from the bricks. Granatelli's investment in a new chassis represented a significant shift in strategy, a recognition that the engine, while exceptional, was only half the equation. The other half, a robust and reliable chassis capable of harnessing the Novi's power without succumbing to it, was long overdue. In 1963, Granatelli entered 3 Novis at Indianapolis, fueled by optimism and an audacious plan. But the mechanical gremlins, the persistent foes of the Novi, refused to be banished. Fiery crashes and recurring mechanical failures dashed hopes, a testament to the ongoing challenges of taming this mechanical beast. Undeterred, Granatelli, inspired by the legendary Stirling Moss's suggestion, decided that a 4-wheel drive system was the key to unlocking the Novi's full potential. He reasoned that distributing the power across all 4 wheels would provide superior traction and control, mitigating the issues of wheel spin and tire shredding that had plagued previous attempts. For 1964, he went all in. A Ferguson 4-wheel drive chassis, a marvel of engineering in its own right, was paired with an 837 horsepower Novi V power figure that dwarfed the competition. This represented the culmination of years of effort, a massive gamble on a machine that had consistently defied expectations.